story time. It is fucking story time with Hatchet, and I am here chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Hatchet.
I had one foster family then make me go out and clean horse stalls. Big old horse ranch. If I didn't do it fast enough, you had to dump it, roll around in horse shit and horse piss. And then one of my punishments, if I got in a fight at school, was take a 20-pound weight. All right, I only weighed probably like 60 pounds. 25-pound weight, and I had to walk up and down the stairs. And one time I fell down the stairs because of it. So then I had to do milk cartons. I'd have to step up, down, and I couldn't drop the weight. If I dropped the weight, and then I had to restart.
Oh, so you'd have to carry this weight up and down stairs for a punishment?
For a punishment, I actually, there was one punishment where I was standing in the corner, and I had to lift my leg and stand on one leg. And the guy, he was a drunk, and I started crying, and he took a baseball bat and broke my kneecap. He hit me with it and broke my kneecap. Standing in corners for hours and hours. There's a lot more harsh punishments than people actually know. Like one time I was stripped naked, put outside in the snowstorm in Colorado, no shelter. I don't know how long I was out there. They left me out there. And foster parents, they know they're not allowed to hit kids. But before I knew that law, I went buck wild. I ain't lying. Like my foster brother, one time he hit me. He was my older brother. He was 21. He hit me. I slit his fucking water bed wide open while he was sleeping. I put sugar in their gas tanks. I knew how to get back. Revenge.
Like, so you would do some wild stuff to them.
Yep. I had a foster mom one time. I had to move this big ass wood pile, and I only had 6 hours to do it. And if I didn't do it, I had to move that wood back and then redo it. And so while she was sleeping, I snuck in there and I cut her fucking hair. Like, I was a vicious little shit. I got revenge. I had one foster brother, and hopefully he doesn't hear this, but he was an asshole, and he didn't take me to Wendy's like everybody else. So I walked out there, I popped the hood on his car, and I poured gasoline on his engine, and I was about, I was 9. I lit that car on fire, and I closed the lid on it. He never knew that I did it. He thought the car started on fire, and I was vicious little bastard. My foster parent that named after now, he used to put locks on the outside of her doors because me and my little brother were just fucking crazy.
Keep you in.
Yeah, keep us in at night so we didn't do anything. I went through the drywall in the house. Boom! I just started kicking that. I was like, damn, that's weaker than the door. So I went right through that. And I escaped. I ran away that night. So I've caused a lot of divorces. I know
that. So when did you first see motorcycle clubs? When was that? Was it when you were young? Like,
so my uncles and all that. So I'm named after a biker. All my brothers are named after bikers. And I was riding on the back of a Harley, and it was out in Commerce City. And, you know, the club will know who it is because it was right next to Rainbow Factory. And I was riding, and a car cut us off, and I was hanging on for dear life. I was about 5 years old. And this car cut us off, and we ran up in the guardrail, and it about snapped my leg off. Like, it hit so hard. And I was instantly in love with going fast. But when they all got arrested, I wasn't really about it until I was watching Gangland. And this is when came out. You remember you could fast forward and pause.
Yeah.
My mom runs across the screen, and I was with my foster dad that did all the private investigation. So he really wanted to find out about my real mom. So if the state couldn't find my mom, he would, because that was one of his promises. I will find your mom for you. And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching it, and I shit you not, I see my mom run across the screen, and I'm like, "That's my mom." And he's like, "No, it's not." And I would not give up on it. And finally, he just rewinds it and he's like, "That's not your mom." And he go get, this is the first picture I had of my mom. And I think I was 9 years old. And they come up and he's like, "That is your mom." And he hands me the picture of my mom.
Wow.
So that was the first picture I had of her.
So she was on a documentary.
Yeah, she was actually on a documentary.
Wow.
So it kind of floated in and out. But most, like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, most millennials were about MTV. They are called the MTV kids for a reason. And so we were about sagging our pants, being a West Sider, or being a Blood, doing all that. You know, we're about the cars, shooting at each other for fun. And that's just America. So this civil war that's going to pop off, right? If it does pop off, we'll fight each other because we're used to it. But if we go World War III, you'll watch everybody change their attitude, go whoop them, and then when we come back to the United States, start whooping each other again. Because that's America. That is America made.
When did you first get a bike?
So my first bike was actually a Kawasaki 1000 out in Nebraska. And I got real drunk, and this is actually when Fast and Furious came out.
Yeah.
And so I had a freaking Eclipse with Lamborghini doors, you know, little thug boy walking around. And I used to not talk like this. I used to call everyone cuz and cut. If you're a white boy, I call you cut. If you're a black boy, I call you cuz. And the reason why you call a white boy cut is because when shit happens, you're automatically cut. They ratting out the white boy. Just say. But so I get a Kawasaki 1000. I had it for a week. And I get real freaking drunk. And this is plowing season out there. And anybody that knows about plowing season, doing cornfields, the best time to wreck a motorcycle out in Nebraska is right after they plow. Because I hit it at I think it was 130. And I went into the ditch, popped out, and I landed in the field. And just because he freshly plowed it, I'm alive. And because I was drunk, I was racing my Eclipse. And I lost control.
Kind of like soft. It's soft, right?
Yep, because they just plowed the ground.
Wow. So after that bike, when did you get another one? Do you keep going with the bikes?
So I got out of it and I started building. Like I had a Nova, I had Corvettes, I've had all kinds of cars, and I've learned at a young age all these people throw away trash, and the rich communities, they throw away good shit. And I learned that from a trash guy. So when they'd like, "Oh, I want to scrap this car or whatever," I worked at a scrapyard, so I'd get all these cars and I'd fix it. Fastest way, make money, flipping cars. So after I got out of jail in West Virginia, I did 2 years, and my ex actually put a hit on me. My ex-wife, my second one. So she mailed it in.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that.
So me and my ex, my second wife, and my first wife, we were actually really fucking crazy together. But me and my second wife, we're all about the dope, like all about it. And they took away my son. The state gave him to his mom, and I couldn't see my kid because she was pulling, "Oh, you kidnapped him." No, bitch, we didn't have a custody. So I get with this one girl, and she's about the dope, banging dope. And I'm like, I've smoked it. I've never shot it. So I did. Boom. And I went star wild with her. We're together for about 2 years, but we're going back and forth, and it was bad enough. I turned down 4.5, I think it was $4.5 million. Like, I left her for a little bit because I wanted to raise my kid. So when I left her, I actually had a contract down here. They wanted me to be a big GM and build a resort. And I was like, hell yeah. And I met that through the whole church thing, finding Jesus moment. And then she's like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, all about it. I'm like, I don't want to go raise my kid. So I go down to West Virginia, back down there, and we get back into the dope. And so we get into domestic. Well, the day before, like, she saved me from actually going to prison for murder because we end up losing our baby. And she's like, that dude right there is the one that hit me in my stomach. And I was like, all right. And I'm all doped out. And I get out my Denali. I walk in the back of it. I used to keep a mask and a pistol. I grab it. I'll walk into the dollar store and I point it at this dude. Here come my ex fucking running across. And she tackles me into the aisle. She goes, this is the wrong person. Like, I almost smoked him. Like, if it wasn't for her, like, noticing, oh shit, that's the wrong person, I would have just ended that dude right there. Because I'm all about kids. And so we get back that night. And as I'm driving, this dude waves at my wife, right? And I'm like, bitch, I just bought this truck yesterday. Like, why the... So, whole way there, me and her going at it, and she pulls a kitchen knife and slashes my face. So I back up and I go hit her, right? And during the process, her 13-year-old daughter jumps up, my elbow hits her in the eye. And I didn't know this. I'm all dope strung out, and I punch her and she slashes me, and then she like drops the knife and jumps on me and attacks me, right? And so I have all these cuts and scratches, and I'm doped out. I don't even know I'm in court. So during my hearing process, I missed the whole don't contact her. You got a restraining order. So I call this bitch twice. I mail her twice. So that's automatic felony. That's automatic 7 years. And then I come down in the pod, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I go to court, and I'm like, I didn't even know I was in jail. I just come down.
Yeah, the shit started wearing off, right?
It started wearing off.
Yeah, you're like in a drug-induced haze.
And so she sends in divorce papers, and that's actually what saved me from actually doing 7 years. Because you're allowed to act as your own attorney, and you're also allowed to send paperwork to her. So that's the only reason why the 2 letters didn't count, because I added in divorce. So while I'm in there, I'm in a misdemeanor pod. Now, granted, I've already done misdemeanor time all over, and I've beaten felony cases all over. So I'm in there. In West Virginians, if you don't know family, oh, you fighting. If you ain't part of any kinfolk out there, you fight. So I fight one guy just because they wanted to see how tough I was. This is misdemeanor pot. Pretty soon, I get in 7 fights, and the last one, I get jumped, and I kick this dude over the railing. So they put me in the hole. And I'm in the hole, and I'm reading. I've never read before till I was put in this place. And I'm like, fuck, Colorado was cakewalk, and, other states were cakewalk. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So I go to another misdemeanor pot after I do the hole. Well, I automatically get in a fight. So they put me back in the hole. And they're like, well, we can't put him with population. Where's the next possibility that they could put me? Fucking PC. So and I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the fuck? And this big ass 6 foot motherfucker, his name was Philip Daly. Big old motherfucker, right? He's 6 foot by 6 foot. I mean, his legs were like tree stumps. He comes up and kicks my fucking door. I'm like, look here, I don't trust no fucking Chester in here. Where's your goddamn fucking paperwork, bitch? He's like, you hit my ex. I was like, what the fuck are you saying? He's like, you Chris Rankin? I'm like, your ex? He's like, yeah. And he shows me the letter. I kept that fucking letter. I still got that letter today. But it said, I'll pay you $1,000 if you can beat him and send him to medical. So it made sense why I was fighting all these guys, because they were passing it through the pods.
And so they put a reward for them to fight you, basically.
Yeah. And so I was like, what the fuck? So when I found that out, I was like, game on. I'm going to start hurting her exes, because she had probably like 5 or 6. But I knew who they were because she always kept pictures of them. So as soon as meds came that night, they popped the doors. It was the only time the doors were all open. Till I come running out of there, and he's a big dude, and I drop kicked him right in the kneecap, and I snapped that kneecap backwards. And I went to beating on his ass, so they locked me back up in the hole, and I had to stay in the hole for a little bit, and then they put me back in fucking PC. But since I did that, not one fucking person in that pod, the pod next to me, would even say anything. And I'm going to tell you, PC, a lot, if you don't run paperwork on them, there's some guys that just like, fuck yeah, I ain't dealing with the chaotic shit. And definitely in West Virginia, there's some guys that are in there just because they got a DUI and they can't fight worth shit in a felony pod.
Yeah, and they're scared. So yeah.
I know one guy, he got 120 years. All right. He was 19. His girlfriend was 17. Right. And West Virginia doesn't have that Romeo law. And West Virginia, they have with adult permission, right? When you become of that age. And I mean, this dude was paying this girl's bills, all that, living with the parents, all that, the whole relationship. And they've been together for years. Well, she decides that she's going to leave him. And he's like, oh, you're going to miss his dick, and took a picture and spam mailed this chick, his ex. And every one of those pictures was a 5-year sentence, and it added up to 120. And they didn't run it all at once. They ran it in consecutive. They just want to get rid of this motherfucker. I was like, what the?
Wow.
So, yeah. And then I moved down here. Like I said, my wife, I ended up divorcing her, and I met my wife, and she started driving. And she was the first person that ever showed me, that she was willing to do for me. She wanted me. She loved me. So she was willing to sacrifice. And when she brought that up, I messaged the 1% Cossacks. Well, her whole family's ugly Cossacks. There's 2 different Cossacks here in Texas.